Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured it out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your company, your career, or your life. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly, or they went through some type of pivot of their own and decided to change course. And today's guest is no exception. Please join with me in welcoming the head of Vanquish Media Group, Chase Friedman. Chase is a brand strategist and fractional CMO, or Chief Marketing Officer, who believes every business has the potential to do good and do well. Sounds like a good fit for our show. With a deep commitment to purpose-driven growth, Chase helps brands align their mission with their marketing, unlocking clarity, connection, and measurable impact. His work empowers leaders to build meaningful brands that create profit with purpose and inspire lasting change in the lives of their customers, communities, and beyond. So who better to have on a conversation about the why with purpose-filled solutions and evolutions than someone such as Chase Friedman. So please join me in welcoming with a round of applause all the way from California via Zoom, Chase Friedman. So yay! Welcome, 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 welcome.
Thank you for the warm intro. Appreciate that.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure to have you here. We've been really knocking it out of the park with season 4, and so I have no doubt that you're going to live up to that. But let's get right to it, because as everybody who's watched us from the beginning, thank you those who have, and also welcome to those who are new. We always ask every guest, going back to the very first episode, after reading their bio, we don't really imagine, we've had a couple people, but not too many of them are actually doing what they thought they would be doing when they grew up. And that includes the 9-year-old that we interviewed. So, Chase Friedman, what did little Chase want to be doing when he was growing up?
Good question. When I was growing up, I had a dream of becoming a movie director. I was always amazed and transported to different worlds watching movies as a kid with my parents, myself, in the movie theater. And growing up in South Florida, that seemed like a pipe dream. It seemed like something that, you know, only happened in the movies. But that was my dream, and I actually got to live that out.
Wow. And we got to have some conversations about how you worked in that industry. How did you make the transition from getting to live that dream of being a movie director to being a fractional chief marketing officer?
That's a good question. It seems like a light years away. I mean, I think the approach is very similar. Like I said, I didn't go to film school. I didn't grow up in Hollywood. I didn't have all the fancy connections. It was moving out here on a hope and a dream after college and working my way up from the bottom, the absolute bottom, um, hustling, but following a passion, something that I loved doing. And I was able to kind of go to the school of the hard knocks, if you will, kind of bootstrapped filmmaker school, where I was able to kind of grow in the industry and develop wonderful relationships, work on, produce, direct, write independent TV, film, music videos, commercials, and it was amazing. And I don't think there's ever going to be quite a high like that in my life. But the love was always around storytelling, right?
Mhm.
Storytelling at its core was what I loved about the medium. There were many other things I didn't love. The business, the industry was pretty ruthless, cutthroat. So I kind of burned out of the business side of it, quite frankly, and found myself consulting for brands and businesses who were in need and seeking their own content, how to connect with audiences in a deeper, more meaningful way. And so at first, looking at it from the outside in, saying, okay, well, I guess I had directed commercials, but working with brands was a very different experience, although it ended up being very much the similar path, right? Storytelling is storytelling. You're trying to inspire and change hearts and minds. So I was able to parlay that into working with a number of different, Fortune 100 brands, L'Oreal, Acer, Samsung, Intel, creating content for their audiences, brand storytelling, as we called it. Um, and then came a time where they asked, okay, well, let's run a campaign. Let's run a social media campaign, build a website, all the other things, part of the marketing ecosystem I had never had experience with before. And it once again found myself in a path of sort of fake it till you make it, bootstrap, teaching myself the inner workings of marketing and branding. And that kind of evolved into what is now a 10-year run with my agency, Vanquish Media Group.
Wow. And it's interesting because there's so many people out there taking so many classes. There's so many online this and online that. And granted, you definitely had a skill set that not everybody has when you decided to make the pivot. But what gave you the courage to make that leap? I mean, I hear the burnout part, but
Yeah.
one of the things we talk about is oftentimes, even the most burnout of people, the fear of change is still more powerful than the fear of staying the same. So, where did you find that courage?
Yeah, there was certainly the mindset of I was quitting, I was giving up on a dream. This is what I had always set out to do. Um, and yet it was making me unhappy, and I lost kind of that joy for it. I think what gave me the courage to kind of jump ship, if you will, is that I was still able to tap into what I later found was an even deeper purpose, right? It wasn't just about directing movies or TV. It was about impacting people on a deep emotional level through the power of storytelling. And that can be transferable, obviously, through entertainment or education or advertising. And so that common thread allowed me to simply reposition my focus and my skills into a different world, a different industry. Um, I think there's a consistent theme of betting on myself, maybe a bit of stubbornness, probably not wanting to work for the man and knowing that I was going to kind of pave my own way and make my own destiny. And it's certainly a challenge, right? Anyone who's an entrepreneur knows sometimes it feels like the world is betting against you, but I loved it. And I liked the challenge of approaching it sort of like a David versus Goliath mentality. I come from independent film, which if you compare that to like big studio filmmaking, it's how do you make something beautiful and wonderful on a shoestring budget, right? It's always an uphill climb and challenge. And I think the same goes through building a business. How do you get scrappy? How do you hustle? How do you make something incredibly amazing that inspires clients and audiences and sometimes do it in a pressure cooker? So that challenge I saw actually a lot of parallels to the film and in entertainment industry.
Awesome. So, to the extent that you can, you get your first client.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was a bit of imposter syndrome at first. Like, what are we doing here? Like I said, I had no agency experience, no traditional education, no, marketing background per se. So it was simply diving in and knowing that if I can control anything, it was to overperform and over deliver for my clients.
Mhm.
I had been on the receiving end of many, many marketing agencies for previous film I had worked on. It was always a little bit amazed, like how much these people make and how little they actually deliver, the bigger the agency. Um, they're not all created equal, but I knew that the hustle and that spirit of delivering something great and quality for the client was going to see me through. And I was determined to not let them down and let myself down.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a little bit of fear and shock. And am I qualified to do this? And I think anyone out there can, especially now, this was years ago, can I don't love the term fake it till you make it, but we have enough resources and resourcefulness around us to be able to achieve and create just about anything we set our sights on.
And it's interesting, you're not the only one that hates that term. In fact, my coach instructor reframed it as do it until you become it.
There you go. I like
And
that.
so that's kind of what I'm hearing you say you did. And if I recall correctly during our pre-conversation, there also it caused some challenges because you went from being, a customer of sorts
Mm.
to a competitor.
Right.
So how did you navigate that space?
Look, I think a little bit of just ignorance around not getting caught up in what was the status quo, the way things have always been done and should be done. I think at the beginning, that tripped me up a lot. Same thing with going into filmmaking without a film degree or having these relationships. It's being afraid of you don't know what you don't know. And once I was able to relinquish that and surrender to, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. And I know how to serve clients and do good work, and I know I have a deep understanding of what I think audiences are looking for. I had to cast aside that head trash and that self-doubt, and just kind of bet on myself. And it's worked out. It might not look the same or feel the same or have the same systems and processes as a large agency, or someone who has a master's degree in marketing. But I think that is what gives me a little bit of a differentiation in the market.
Yeah, I was going to say because some of the things that you've touched on that we haven't really called out directly is one, you're a forever learner. You will just dive in,
Always,
you'll learn, right?
always.
Another asset that I heard in there is okay, so you didn't have the formal training, but that means you also didn't have the limiting beliefs and fixed mindset that comes sometimes with that formal training that it must be done a certain way. So you were able to think out of the box and really deliver for people that maybe it would have been different had you gone a different path.
I certainly think so. And I had one stint working for a large media company. I won't name them. And it was my foray into bringing creativity into corporate life, and it just didn't jive well for me. So I think I've always had a little bit of that rebel mindset, trying to push boundaries, trying to see things out of the box, have a different perspective. And looking back on my career and my path, I think that has served me well. It's been a bit of a superpower. And to your point, right? I wasn't the prisoner of what I was taught. I was learning by doing, which I think is the best way to master anything.
Mhm.
Um, and leaning on a little bit more gut and heart and intuition than the playbook, so to speak.
Yeah. So, like for a lot of people who've been watching us, this is actually the first time that they're meeting a fractional CMO. So, um, help them understand what a fractional chief marketing officer actually is.
Yeah, I mean, my clients, I run obviously Vanquish as an agency, but something I missed building a business for many, many years was really getting in the trenches with clients, was really kind of getting my hands dirty, being able to impact and affect more elements of their business than just say a particular scope of work or deliverable that we would create at the agency. My clients have called me anything from a business coach to a branding coach to a strategist to a fractional CMO. The name to me doesn't really matter, and I don't think it should. I think it's a matter of having a guide and having a collaborator and a partner that is thinking at a high level about what is best to guide your business forward for sustainable growth. So, fractional is basically, hey, look, you don't need a full-time in-house CMO hire, when something sort of in a more agile capacity will do. And it allows me to coach and consult and provide strategy for clients, meeting them where they are, but remaining nimble and agile enough both in their spend and their budget to be able to also build out a team for what they need. A lot of times my goal is to phase myself out, make myself obsolete in the organization by creating a roadmap or a blueprint, as I like to call it, steering them forward, building the team, the best practices, the SOPs, the systems that they need to execute. And at a certain point in time, it's like, you guys are flying. My work here is done, right?
Yeah, and then in theory, they've grown big enough that they can hire someone that can do the role, which of course always makes me wonder how many of them actually do that successfully or end up asking you back.
Yeah, look, I think when you get a lot of mid-size, small mid-sized companies, you have that sort of, and I'm one of them, the founder that is wearing all the hats or is trying to, right, and having all the answers. I've been there, and I wish I would have had a guide earlier on in my career to say, hey, let's do this together. Here's a different perspective. So that's really all it is. It's allowing the founder, the CEO to focus on what they do best, right?
Mhm.
And making sure you have someone you can trust by your side. It's looking out for your best interest and the best interest of your company, um, to help guide and manage and execute on that plan. And it can be extremely liberating. But sometimes we don't always get out of our own way. We try to put that all on our in our backpack and carry it forward until we burn out or hit a wall or we realize, hey, I need some help.
And it's interesting because, as you mentioned yourself, the constant theme between both worlds is that you love the storytelling
Yeah.
aspect. And, you know, what is it about, and you kind of hinted at it, but what is it about storytelling that really makes you feel like you're filling your purpose?
I like to say my purpose is helping others find theirs and manifesting that into the life and business of their dreams, right? It's a
Yeah,
proxy hive,
similar.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap there, different way, but
Yeah.
we do a lot of storytelling as well, but not at the level that you do.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is, first of all, people buy we understand people buy on emotion first,
Yes.
especially in today's sort of culture, this conscious consumerism, stakeholder driven, capitalism, whatever you want to consider it or call it. This is not a trend, this is a movement, this is a paradigm shift in the way people buy and consume and evaluate. And people are looking for something deeper. They're looking for a deeper meaning, a deeper connection with the brands that they represent, right? Now, that doesn't mean for every product in every industry. But when we are living in this sort of sea of sameness, this commoditized competitor landscape where more and more options are at our disposal and only a few can win on best price or product or features, those are tangible things, right? It's a very finite sort of measuring stick for differentiation. So I think you got to go a step deeper, right? You have to connect with people on a deeper emotional value level. And storytelling is the absolute best medium, we have for that, right? To tap into someone's psyche, their fears, their desires, their motivations. Um, and so it's something that whether you're watching something for entertainment or you're trying to learn or evaluate a product, why wouldn't we try to build a deeper relationship with our target audience? Put a message out there that doesn't just simply go out and try to hard sell, but if anything, invite them into a story and attract them and invite them in to this world, right? Um, a lot of clients feel daunted when I prompt them to say, all right, tell me your story. Well, I'm not a storyteller and I don't know what that means. We all are. This is like hardwired in our reptilian brain, right? And hero's journey or story brand or whatever you want to call it, there is a bit of a formula to it and a
Mm.
framework. So it's something that can apply to everyone, but you've got to be willing to dig a little bit deeper. You got to be willing to get a little bit more vulnerable, understand yourself from a purpose-driven level, why we exist, right? Why it is we do what we do, what we believe in, and then understanding that of your audience and finding where that connection point comes. But storytelling in any medium, written, visual, auditory, uh, the most powerful way to tap into that deeper level of connection.
And of course, as you've touched on a couple of different times, you kind of jumped in and just learned as you went. You did it until you became it. What would you say are one or two of your greatest learning lessons along the way, that helped you succeed in this space?
I'll go back to that early stage of shifting my career into this field. I think shutting out the noise, right?
Okay.
Shutting out the noise of the naysayers, the people that you're not qualified, you don't have this credential, you haven't worked for the biggest clients, both noise externally and internally, right? Because we feed a lot of that ourselves.
Yes.
And then especially on social media and this cacophony of whether it's sort of the marketing bros or hustle culture or this is how you 10x and scale and all these sort of empty promises and smoke and mirrors. Um,
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
it's unfortunate because so much of it gives, I think, what we do from branding and marketing a bad reputation and a bad name. So much of my work, I feel, is therapy in a way with
Mhm.
clients, getting them to believe again in what they can be and what their business should be, and how to trust someone who can help them do that. Because I've been burned before, or I've, heard all these things and no result. I can't tell you how many times clients have come to me saying that, and it becomes a therapy session
Yep.
first before we even work together. But I would say shutting out the noise of what the world and our industry and the self-proclaimed gurus out there tell you it's supposed to be and tell you it's supposed to look like. Not just about how to run a business, but how to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I had a real problem even using that word for myself starting out. I'm not an entrepreneur. That's not, I don't look like them and sound like them and operate like them. But the truth is that it's you got to find your own path, right? It's your own race at your own pace, and it's going to look different for everybody. So don't get tripped up by what is defined as the way, right? The one size fits all approach in building a business.
Yes, and I love the fact that you touched on just now a couple of times about beliefs,
Yeah,
because so much of it really does come down to, you know, your own beliefs and what you tell yourself,
sure.
but also all the other people who seem to want to tell you what you're capable of doing
Yeah.
instead of what you can tell yourself. I mean, we can judge ourselves better than anybody else, but it is always fascinating. And entrepreneurship is definitely a road less traveled. Uh,
It's a messy middle, right?
yep.
We get caught up in the destination and these vanity metrics and what could be, and we forget to spend time in this messy middle because it's uncertain. We forget to spend time in the journey. And I have clients reach out to me all the time with sort of the end goal in mind, right? I need more leads or more followers or more website traffic. And I always, let's pump the brakes for a second. Let's measure twice, cut once. Let's get to the root of what really might be the root cause of you not getting more work or more revenue. And a lot
Mhm.
of times, great, we can adjust the tactics, but unless you have that foundation solid, rock solid, your story, your message, positioning, right? I like the analogy of building a home. You're trying to decorate the house and there's no foundation in place.
Yeah.
So without that really clear understanding of who you are, how you position yourself in the marketplace, who you're talking to, how you message that with clarity and confidence and conviction, um, none of that stuff matters yet.
Mhm. And it's interesting because we, purpose-filled solutions and evolutions, we use that foundation. You have to start with a good foundation all
Always,
the
right?
time. And a lot don't. They jump in. And and if I looked triggered, you're right, because I don't know how many times a day, and you probably get this, even though you do what you do.
Yeah,
You get the let me 10x your business on the introduction on
yeah,
LinkedIn.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm sure you get this all the time as well. A lot of clients, it's like going to the dentist, like kicking and screaming, saying, "I don't want to spend time on the foundation,
Yeah,
right? That's going to take a little more time, and it's not that immediate dopamine hit and gratification and quick wins,
you're
but
right.
we know it's necessary, and
Yeah.
it does beget exponential results down the road.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you get the same thing. A lot of people just want to go for the immediate win, the short-term gain at the expense of long-term sustainable growth and impact.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. So I get both. That as well as the ones that are stuck on the foundation.
Interesting.
And they are
Sure.
so busy measuring and cutting and shaping and making sure that it's going to pass every code that they are never getting to the first floor.
Yeah, we've got some of those as well. It's
Yeah.
paralysis by analysis, right?
hmm So as we start to wind down, um, what's one question you wish I had asked you that I didn't yet ask?
It's a great question. I'm always intrigued by asking of others, what's the one piece of advice you would have given your younger self,
Mm.
right? If you had to reflect back. Now, you can do this at this point in time. Um, I also like to kind of evaluate where you are in your life and your career. Like view yourself as an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old. What does the 8-year-old self look at, think of you? And what does your 80-year-old self reflect back and think of your course? But in terms of my advice from my earlier self, even though I would say it to myself a lot, I don't think I really understood what it meant. One thing would be trust the process.
Okay.
Um, I think there's power in that. And like I just said, don't worry about the ends and the timing and the results of it. Trust the process and invest in that journey. Um, but I would also kind of whisper to myself and say, hey, look, find your why, find your purpose in all this, because that didn't come easy. That came through a series of sort of burnout and getting tripped up and failure and all sorts of mess, right? I don't advise anyone wait till they hit rock bottom to go and kind of dig a little deeper. If you can set yourself on that path right now, even in success, you
Yes.
will be so much more fulfilled and successful. And that's why I like to say, do good and do well, right?
Yeah.
Profit with purpose. You can have both. They are not mutually exclusive.
Mhm. Which is interesting because one of the things you just acknowledged is that failure is part of learning.
Absolutely. It's the best learning, right? It's the
It
best teacher.
is. In fact, so much so, in another part of my life, there's a sign that hangs in one of the rooms that actually reads, um, failure is an acronym for first attempt in learning.
Mm.
It's part of a quote from uh, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the 15th president of India, an astrophysicist who
Wow.
helped create their space program in the
Wow.
day. And it goes on, in terms of other things that are actually very much aligned with what it would be like to be in cells in terms of, no is next opportunity and is not
Mm.
the ending, effort never dies. But
Very cool.
my favorite part of that quote is fail is an acronym for first attempt in learning,
Yeah.
and so much of the entrepreneur journey really does involve failure. If you're not failing, then you're not taking risk.
Right.
And
You're certainly
so,
not growing.
yeah,
Um,
oh yeah. Either
yeah.
that or you're incredibly lucky.
Yeah, I
Incredibly
don't think
lucky.
I don't think there's too many of those out there.
I've never met an entrepreneur, myself included, who hasn't failed multiple times over
Yeah.
and then had to pivot. So, um, so you kind of touched on what you would tell your younger person, but interestingly, my next question was going to piggyback on that. What would you like to tell your older self when
Interesting.
the day gets here?
I've never gone in that order direction before.
Ah, see, you brought it up, so I figured, okay, well, maybe
Yeah, I
you
like
thought
that
about
spin on
this.
it.
So
What
what
would
would you like to be able to say to your older self?
I think it's more of the action than the word, right?
Mm.
In cinema, it's always actions speak louder than words, less dialogue, more demonstration. I think it's more of a validation that I did the best I could with what I had, and I did it. I try to always do the right thing the right way in business. I didn't take shortcuts, didn't try to hoodwink or kind of lead people astray, or myself. I think being proud of putting in the time and the effort and the energy, even though it's messy, into that process and trusting of that process has led to the right results, right? I wasn't trying to chase that quick, immediate gratification or that quick win or cheating the system. I think a lot, whatever industry you're in, entertainment, marketing, staying power, I think speaks volumes, right? How can you hang in there and be resilient when things are tough and not looking your way?
Mhm. So when all is said and done, what I'm kind of hearing you say is the real return on the investment comes from knowing who you are, staying true, um, and having the ethics, the resilience, and the drive to be a forever learner, make
Yeah,
mistakes,
yeah,
and be able to get back up and keep going,
yeah,
and be very careful about how much others limit your beliefs about what your potential is, because you can do plenty of that all on your own.
yeah. Amen. Well said.
Awesome. Well, you said it. I just mirrored it back.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded very nice coming from you. Yeah.
So, well, you'll have the recording. You can use it as part of your story next time.
Perfect. I'll just recite it back, my morning mantras, right? As my friend used to say, the journey is the reward, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
really is. and well said. And we will leave it on that note. So, for anyone who wants to reach out to you, links to Chase and his company are going to be available in the comments below the recordings on whatever platform you happen to be watching this. But what is the easiest way to reach you?
I'd say LinkedIn. LinkedIn, just hit me up to have a chat, have a conversation, share with me what stage of life or business you're in. I just like meeting new people that are on a little bit of the same wavelength that we are, drinking a little bit of the same Kool-Aid. Whether it's a collaborator or a client, a partner, LinkedIn is great. And then obviously you can visit our website, vanquishmediagroup.com.
And I was going to say, and so you have your own personal LinkedIn as well as Vanquish Media Group's LinkedIn will be included along with the show notes. So, Chase, thank you so much. It's already been a half hour. It really flies. But we really appreciate you taking time to share your story and your thoughts and have some dialogue with me around how you found your purpose. And for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for continuing to tune in. You have so many viewing and listening choices out there. So we really appreciate that you're joining us. And please, if you think that somebody else can benefit from the shows that we're doing, please do share, like, follow, and help us spread the message of all of the different amazing people that we've been talking to. All of our past seasons are available on various platforms where you watch and or listen to your podcasts, as well as on our webpage. We have separate pages for What the Why, as well as Purpose-Filled Solutions and Evolutions, which you can link to from our sites. And also, please remember, whether you are looking to make any changes in your life, your career, or your company, please tune in for more illuminating, inspiring, and educational conversations about resilience and finding your purpose with guests such as Chase, who found the courage to make a leap from one amazing industry to an entirely different amazing industry because he wanted to live into his purpose. And you too can use the examples from the guests that we've featured to help you navigate, find your purpose, and live it.